There you go. It says you're live.
Yeah, it says live. If it is working, welcome everybody to this afternoon's fantastic, exciting extravaganza, all the way from Swansea, Hertfordshire, and Bury St Edmunds, Rock City.
I'm Polber.
These people who are part of a Swansea super group, Swansea super in inverted commas, Swansea super group called Jack City Rockers, and we're going to talk to everybody in a bit. First up, though, we're going to. Well, first of all, maybe everyone should say hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And while everybody tunes in their set and the TV set and shares the stream around the place, we're going to play a rather fantastic song that Seymour from Bury St Edmunds was behind. This release, our Boris out release, is part of a two-sided single. Well, it's a single-sided single. It's got 2 tracks on it, and this is the first track that plays on the record, which was launched the other week. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to hopefully, I always get this bit wrong, share sound, and it's going to share my Facebook page for a second, but you can ignore that. We're going to watch this, and then we'll come back and talk to you. So don't go away, anybody. Is that working?
Awesome.
Yeah. James is.
Yeah, the stream is live on Facebook. Yeah.
Don't talk to you.
Sorry. Yeah, I was awesome.
That was incredible. So that's a good way to start things. And I'm just stopping. There we go. So welcome if you just turned up. I need to do something I forgot today. Welcome people who just turned up to the single launch for the track that goes with that, which is equally subtle. Boris, out. So we've got people from all the bands involved, and there's the music starting again. Excuse me. Beautiful. There's gaff tape Sandy starting by mistake. So, so maybe everyone wants to introduce themselves. Let's start with people from Tom, can you tell us who you are, perhaps?
Yeah, hello, I'm Tom Emlyn. I'm in Bandicoot, and I'm also in News from Nowhere. Both Swansea bands. I'm lead guitarist in Bandicoot. I'm more of the lead songwriter in News from Nowhere. And I do solo stuff as well. I think that's pretty much it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
James, do you want to have a quick introduction?
Me?
James?
Yeah. I'm the bassist of White Riot. The only reason I'm a bassist is because I don't know how to play more than one note. So
He's been practicing though, is that true?
yeah, trying to. So
Excellent. And then we've got Carwyn, you say to yourself.
Yeah, I play bass and lead vocals in a little known band called DTT. Yeah.
And then we've got two other people from Swansea who are Alan and Kaz, who are going to introduce themselves, if that's okay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Kaz, this is Alan.
You run Picture Sound, which is fantastic, recording space, gig venue and homeless sanctuary in Swansea. And while this is a free event, we are collecting for the crowdfunder, which is being organised by the Music Venues Trust. And there's a link to the link that goes to Creature Sound at the top of this video. If anybody has got the means to support music in Swansea and wants to make a donation, the link is in the description. Then we've also got two special guests. Should we start with us? Let's do Mark first, because we're going to talk to Seymour in a minute. Mark, would you mind explaining to anybody who isn't as old as me who you are and why you're here, if you know?
Yeah, hi there. I'm Mark, as you said, and I was a member of the Larks, a founder member, the guitar player, and we recorded the original Maggie, 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 Out, 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 that has been plagiarised ruthlessly by the upstarts. And I've been invited to come on here and talk a bit about the original song, which was gone and forgotten long before some of these people were even born. But there we go.
I think it's great to have a link across generations, because music unites people, doesn't it? Across.
well, when you sent me the track, Richard, I loved it. Like I thought it was brilliant. Like,
well, that's good to hear, because I'm sure you weren't born when it came out. Came out in
yeah,
1985. It came out. Mark? I was trying to get
I would guess off the top of my head 86.
86. Anyway, we'll talk more about that in a minute. And
yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to see you here, because your record is one of my prized possessions. And we're also joined by Seymour, who is the guru of Bury St Edmunds. Bury St Edmunds is 273 miles or something from Swansea. So people might not know the fantastic live music scene that is going on in Bury St Edmunds. And it was actually Seymour that had the idea for this release that's going to be put out on FlexiDisc, as well as being available online as we speak. Hello, Seymour.
Hello, Rosie.
All right. So,
And everyone else. It's literally the first time I've ever, like, I say met like any of you guys. And
yeah,
like when I spoke to Rosie about the idea of getting the Berry band together to do the track, and he came straight back and said, "Shall I do a Swansea one?" I thought, hell yeah. And like, so the fact that you all came together to do it, it just goes to show, you know, when you have a cause that everyone believes in, how easy it is to get people together. So like, hats off to you all, because like, it's like, you know, I remember when bands like 15, 20 years ago when I was touring all the time, bands tended to hate each other. And that seems to have changed. But, you know, it was so it's awesome that you did this.
That's what I was going to ask you a bit about. Seymour, I wanted you to explain a little bit about what you've done in what you've done in Bury St Edmunds, what the idea behind the Bury release was, and if you wanted to tell us a little bit about your checkered past, you can tell us that if you like, because I know you just had a re-release. Thinking about marking his re-releases, so we had a Miss Black America re-release just this week.
Yeah, so I did. I used to be in a band called Miss Black America years ago, and we toured the UK all the time, and then I've been in a few bands since, but I haven't made much music recently. And I tend to promote gigs more now, so I run shows at a town called at a venue called the Hunter Club in Bury St Edmunds, which is like just the perfect sort of grassroots music venue. And they've let me do whatever I want there for the last 9 years. And we've built this really nice scene. It's got to the point now where there are more bands than slots, which is a brilliant problem to have. But, you know, if it hadn't been for the Hunter Club letting me do what I wanted to do, we never would have had this scene. So so that's kind of what I do around my day job mostly, is putting on shows. But at the, you know, I've said this before in the other kind of launch that we did, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself and you've heard me say it before, but the day after the election, in December, I woke up, like a lot of people did, really depressed about the way that it had gone. You could see the writing was on the wall. You know, the Tories were always going to win, because they had the media on their side, and it had been such a dirty, nasty personal election, that no one came out of it well. You know, there were no positive aspects whatsoever to that election, even less than there had been in the last few years. None of our recent elections are nice. Elections tend to be horrible, but this is a particularly horrible one. So I started thinking about how I could turn my anger and disappointment and what had happened into something more positive. And a friend of mine called Michael ran a campaign that got Jarvis Cocker to Christmas #2 with his song "Cunts Are Still Running the World." And they used all of the money that Jarvis got from streams and sales of the track. He donated to shelter. So I'd seen that happen purely on a grassroots basis, and thought, well, maybe we could do something similar to help local charities, you know, around our way. And Gatehouse Food Bank in Bury St Edmunds is fantastic. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the fact that food banks need to exist is abhorrent. I'm sure they wouldn't disagree with me. You know, we shouldn't be in a situation where people are working full time and still can't afford to feed their children. That's a terrible situation, and it needs to end. So I wanted to do something to help Gatehouse, and I spoke to Rosie before I spoke to anyone else and said, if I do this thing, will you put it out? And he said, yeah, and immediately suggested getting a Swansea track together as well. And then I went and spoke to the bands Tundra, Gaffer Tape Sandy, and BUH, and they were all in. Colk just turned up at the studio, and the studio let us do it for free. So it was just one of those brilliant things coming together. And then of course we had the artwork, which is by Russell Taysom. And I've got to apologise to Russell if you're watching, Russell, because the week that we released our track, Boris Johnson was rushed to hospital.
Selfish.
And you know, much as I may dislike the man, I do not wish him dead. You know, it was kind of, and the fact that this is blatantly Boris Johnson as a zombie feasting on the flesh of the poor, and that's what he does. That's his legacy. He spent his entire political career trampling on vulnerable people, as all Tory politicians do, for his own gain. But it seemed a bit, so we toned it down and made his hair orange for the initial release, which I'm really sorry about, Russell. Anyway, it's Boris, and yeah, fuck him. So there you go.
So the two tracks together, Seymour, are going to be on a flexi disc, which is obviously a bit hard to produce at the moment. I mean, this is the test pressing, which is obviously very exciting, blue bendy plastic. It's going to have that wonderful sleeve on it. Is there the two tracks on it? The flexi together is called We Are Flex Bob On. Can you explain the name of that? Because it wasn't my idea.
It's from Scott Pilgrim, isn't it?
It's Scott Pilgrim, yeah. It's there's a film and comic strip called Scott Pilgrim, and the band in it are called Sex Bob On. So you always go for a pun in your flexi thing title. So that was my suggestion. So
excellent. Yes, I'm glad to have that explained. So it's You Flexi Thing Volume 7, and with the subheading that you just said that I'm going to say wrong if I try saying it. So hopefully that'll be out soon. You can pre-order it on the Repeat Bandcamp if anybody should want to. It's quite a lot already. It is lovely. It does sound really nice on vinyl. You can also stream both tracks now on Spotify if you hunt for it. Actually, it's doing pretty well. The Tundra, Gaffer Tape Sandy, BUH Cult tracks had 9,000-10,000 streams already. Ours isn't that far behind, and we haven't launched yet. So there we go. One more question, I think, for Seymour. You've touched on it already. What does the cooperation between bands in Bury and in Swansea show us about the way the world could be if it was run by different people or run it different
I think the reason why I put on gigs is because you see the best in people, and I'm sure you see it at Creature Sound as well. You know, when the people who rule us divide us, and that's what they do. That's how they win. They drive artificial wedges between people that don't need to exist. Those wedges only exist to elevate those people's careers, and get them what they want. And things have, especially since the advent of social media, the way that people interact with each other has become really unhealthy. People can be extremely nasty and unpleasant and entitled, and it can be extremely depressing seeing that happen. And our leaders don't set good examples. But then you put on shows and you see the best in people. You put on a charity gig and hundreds, thousands of people will turn up and give all they can and support each other. And the way that bands support each other in local music scenes now is wonderful, because we're not doing this to make loads of money. If we wanted to make loads of money, we'd go and do something else. We're doing this because we believe in each other. We believe in people. We believe in the power of building a community and getting people together to do something that makes people's lives better, because that's what music does. When you bring people together in a positive way, it can have ramifications on the rest of people's lives. The example I always give is that I met my wife at a gig by a Belgian art rock band called Deus, we had that in common, and we've been together for 15 years now. We've got 2 kids. That's 2 human beings who exist because of a musical connection. And you think about that, in world terms, these positive things that bring us together result in new lives. They result in people having better lives, finding who they need to be, having the confidence to go and do whatever it is they want to do. So none of this, no art, music, culture, they're not frivolous. They're not luxuries. These are things that genuinely shape people, and by extension, make the world a much better place to live in. So that's that's what it's all about. Did that answer your question, or I'm just waffling on?
That was brilliant. That's perfect. I think we should all just go home now, because you said that was excellent, and it's good to see a lot of people watching as well. There's people from Jay volunteers watching. Seymour, you'll be pleased to hear.
Hi, Jay.
We've got Jackson as well, as in James's manager, I believe. Jackson is watching.
Hi.
There in the stream. If anybody's got any questions, you are welcome to ask them, and I put them in the comments. And you never know, I might take any notice of them. Thanks, Tim. We'll talk to you again. I was going to talk to Alan and Kath from Creature Sound now, if that's okay. Creature Sound, people who don't know Swansea, I only just moved back to Swansea 18 months ago, and they made me so welcome in their venue. Made it really easy to put on gigs. It's free to book, and they even give you 10% of the bar. There's a recording studio downstairs that's really cheap, especially for young bands to use. There's also a homeless sanctuary attached to the venue, so that's everything that you want in a venue. But of course, in this current crisis, who knows what the outcome's going to be. So first up, Alan and Kaz, what made you want to get involved with recording this track when a few of us turned up in the dark rain before lockdown and said, we want to record a ridiculous track about Boris Johnson? It's a cover of a song from the 80s that most people don't know. Why did you volunteer to do it for free, please?
Oh, we love the Larks. We've seen the Larks play before at one of our old venues, so we actually absolutely love them. But we do stuff like this all the time, really. This one particularly, we agree with the message. I know they say that it shouldn't be too political, but there we are. And the guys in the bands that are doing it have all been very supportive of the venue and what the venues are doing. So we just wanted to give a little bit back, and also to get that message across to the public, because I don't think a lot of people are really analysing what the company are doing. So,
Alan, you accidentally ended up playing drums on it, didn't you?
Yeah.
How was it playing drums on this track that you weren't sure about before, as you might not have heard it before when you...
Well, that and being about 12 years out of practice didn't help. But yeah, I generally don't shy away from an opportunity to play on anything. So I was just happy that you agreed to have me drumming.
Excellent. Well, it sounds great. I thought, especially for someone who wasn't sure about how the track went before we started. Can you, either of you, tell us a bit more about your work in the area with the venue and the recording setup, and also what you do with the homeless and food, feeding people and so on?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're a bit of a weird venue, really. We're a little bit unusual. So we have the music venue upstairs, and then we have the recording studio and rehearsal rooms downstairs. And also downstairs, we have the showers and the homeless drop-in facility down there where they get some support. And I have to say a big shout out to Debs and Cheryl and Trina who run that project downstairs, because they're absolutely fantastic. So as you said, we let the bands come in here. There is no hire fee. They take 100% of the door. They take 10% of the bar. All the equipment's free to use. The sound tech is free. Everybody that works in the venue is voluntary. And we take the funds that we get from the studio and the bar and we put it back into the building to pay the bills. Working very well for 3 years. And we also, when we did have a little bit of extra income come in, we bought a free minibus for the bands to use. I think White Riot, have you been on the minibus yet?
We haven't yet, but we've got some plans to use it. Like, the moment.
But
It's sorting things out at the moment, really.
Yeah,
because like
that
van has been on my mind for so long, but it's just having to use it.
Oh, it's all right. Other James is coming next week to come and sort it out, so that's okay.
Yes.
But before the outbreak happened, we did have a threat of closure. We had a deadline of the 17th of December, which then got extended. And after the extension, the coronavirus hit. So we are doing the crowdfunder with the Save Our Venues initiative because it addresses the immediate situation of keeping the venue open, and also any extra funds that come from that are given to other music venues up and down the country, which we think is a brilliant idea. It's amazing. So if you help one venue, potentially you're helping all of them. And the other thing that we have going on is the share sale to buy the building, which is a community share sale. And the goal of that is for the whole community to own the building forever. So if there was an outbreak like this, the coronavirus, we could have potentially closed that doors, having it as a freehold and not had to worry about opening it up again. So as much as people are crowdfunding for the immediate situation, we'd actively like to encourage people to come and ask us about buying shares in the building. Myself and Alan have been offered a new job, so we're not asking you to buy the venue for us. The whole point of the project is to get the building bought for the community and for the community to come in, for there to be a handover and the community to run it. So we'd also like people in the community to think about who they would like in here to do that.
Right, I saw there's a question just coming saying, where is the project? Do you want to, oh, it's in Swansea, people don't know, it's just by the station. If you're in the area and you don't know where Creature Sound is, you can Google it, you look up the Facebook page, which is linked from this article, from this video.
Cool video on there.
So I was going to ask you, what you're trying to do to plug the gap that Lack of Gigs has brought, but you've answered that mostly, haven't you, the crowdfunder, which is part of the Music Venues Trust.
Yeah, well, we're looking for musicians that are able to come on and do live streams. We have got a setup at the moment. Problem is we're trying to find bands that have the right audio kit, because we can have you come and do live streams remotely from home. We do have a list of equipment that you can use to do that. That is up and running. So if you have a band that has the correct audio gear on that list, we can try and do it for you from home. We're also talking to the various governing bodies to find out about another project that we're trying to put up at the moment, which might allow a little bit more leeway for musicians to come in and do that. But if you have live stream capability and you want to help us, really we need to get this centre over the line. Once it's over the line, we've had offers from outside organisations to come in and help us get it the rest of the way. So if you can get us over this period, we've got a really, really good chance. And the Save Our Venues crowdfunder, like I said, if you're doing it for any venue, goes back into the pot for other venues in need. So even if you can't get on it with us, pick another venue, get on it with them. It's really important.
Absolutely, it fits with what Seymour was saying at the start. I've worked in loads of venues, lots of venues close to my heart. Creature Sound, obviously, in Swansea, but also Hunter Club in Bury St Edmunds and the Portland Arms in Cambridge. We need to come out of this current situation with our venues still intact. So if you can't donate to Creature Sound, please donate to somewhere so we can. Today, obviously, Creature Sound would be the ideal one, and any extra money goes into a shared pot, as Kaz was saying.
Clap for our venues.
Yes.
There we are.
Hashtag on that. There's one more question for Creature Sound people, which is to plug the DDT track before we're going to have a quick listen to it. you want to tell us a bit about the recording of that? Because that really does a good example of how the high quality recording that you do for little or no money. Alan, do you want to tell us the recording of that at all?
Well, I just kind of like wanted to give back to DTT because I would say easily 90, or all of them, I think, in the band that have at some point volunteered or helped out or done something or given something to the venue to help us when we was like struggling for whatever reason, whether it be like having no one on the door to collect tickets from gig goers, or like we were short on our volunteer bar staff. Somebody within that band has jumped in and just stepped up and helped. Usually without being prompted. They're usually like, oh, I heard you got no one on the door. Can I be on the door? And it's like, yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't have much to give you, but what I can give you is like free studio time and record track. So pick one and there you go.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was great working with him and fun. It didn't take very long either because professionals.
Professional indeed. So we're just going to play that track now. It's only 90 seconds or something. If anybody's got any questions for anybody, I see there's a question coming from Mark, which we'll ask in a bit. Do put them in the comments. Don't go away. It's an excellent track. Obviously, you haven't got money to spend on a plush video, but there's a great picture of a bottle.
Yeah, it is. There's a bottle being used as an ashtray with our drummer in the background, so it's beautiful.
And if Toby's watching, please don't be too offended. Here you go. Nice. You did that in like a few minutes, is that right, Carl? You did that really quickly.
I guess we did it relatively fast.
When I say
like,
a few minutes, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, like a few hours, but still, same thing basically.
Your voice sounds awesome on that, Car.
Oh yeah, I know. It's really cool.
It sounds really good on that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Proper, like,
sounds a bit like the chats to me.
Oh yeah, I love the chats. Yeah.
Well, that's a good compliment then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about DDT then, please, Carwin?
Yeah, we're a free piece. We play fast music that is good to mosh to. Not that there's usually enough people at our shows, but like, yeah, I guess like Tuckphobia's a song, but like.
Yes, and it's had lots of it's had a good reception, hasn't it? It's been
oh yeah, it has. It's about like I think like 3,300 something streams.
Yeah, Instagram has been doing really well.
Yeah.
Really well. So what was it that impelled you? Because I know you did some demos before with a much more dodgy recording engineer. What was it that impelled you to do something a bit more upmarket and push that one?
It's just like Alan like offered to record us, and like why not? And then Tuckphobia was like a song like we kind of like just like wrote as it was like the first song we actually wrote was a free piece, and like kind of it just fit together so well, and it was a perfect song to record, and it just everything like lined up perfectly. So yeah.
Excellent. So you had all these people listening to it and a bit of a head of steam behind you. and then you've had to miss the launch gig, which was meant to be.
Oh, that was all depressing. Like that was not good.
No. How are you going to re-establish your momentum, do you think?
Record a few more tracks with Creature when like it's available, and like yeah, when it's legal, and like just like go from there. 'Cause I think like we have potential. Like if we can put on gigs like before like I end up going to uni, like we could like get some like really good stuff going. So like I'm hoping like things turn out well, and like we could like have momentum.
So you yourself are
It's not like you're going to stop anyway, is it? So.
Nah.
Well, if you talk to your parents about playing at home, you can record from home for the meantime.
So have you ever thought about singing in Welsh? Because I know you speak Welsh as well, Turkish. Have you ever thought of doing what Bandicoot does and doing a bit of English and a bit of Welsh?
Actually, yeah. Like I've kind of been like experimenting with writing a few songs in Welsh. Like but like yeah, possibly, because like as soon as we get together like after lockdown, we're gonna like because like Daniel and I've been like doing a ton of songwriting, and like so after the lockdown we're just gonna like pump out like a lot of new tracks, and some of them may be in Welsh. So yeah.
Might be a market for you, but they're hardcore Welsh.
Yeah.
So final question for now then, what is going to be next for DDT? Because I know you're likely to be heading up to university because you're such a musical.
Yeah, in Manchester. Yeah.
What do you envisage the band carrying on when you're in?
Oh, definitely. It's like I'm actually planning on like getting like a few gigs up in Manchester. It's like already we've built a tiny fan base of like future RNCM students, and like we actually had someone from Scotland buy our merch. So like
that's all.
Yeah. So I think we could genuinely like expand like further out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The punk scene is booming in Scotland right now as well.
Yeah.
So, big time.
Yeah.
Yes. So excellent. We'll come back to talk to everybody at the end. I'm going to talk to James now from White Riot, who is seeing somewhere. I can't see him. There he is, James. So do you want to tell us a bit about White Riot to start with, and then I've got a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, sure. Oh God, I don't really know what to say, to be honest. Just 3-piece casual band from a town of Steel, Talbot. I guess we were all just so depressed, decided we had to make depressing music to show how depressed we were. And I don't know, we've been going for about 2 years strong now, I guess. It's been going well. Like, I mean, we were just starting to break out to Wales a little bit before this quarantine. We had like 3 or 4 shows lined up in Bristol, as well as a couple of others, but have obviously had to be cancelled or postponed because of this, which is really annoying. Like, because like it's hard to get shows outside of the scene at the moment. But yeah. Yeah,
I was going to say you must be really frustrating, because it did seem that you just suddenly hatched a serious plan for world domination.
Yeah, well, like I mean, everything was starting to come together. Like, I mean, I was getting to certain bits of my plan for the band and stuff, and then it just got cut off because of all this. Like, I mean, it wasn't anything serious right now, but because I mean, for the next year or two, we were just going to be relentlessly gigging anyway. Like, no big serious plan, more so just getting an audience for ourselves. But like, it's just been delayed right now, really, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, your band's got a lot of potential, though.
Yeah, like the thing is though, we just want to get our audience before we take any serious projects. We're still going to be releasing singles at the moment, but before we release an album, we want our audience to fall on, like, if you get me. And like, why I was happy, because like we were starting to break out of Wales, but we had like we had a show lined up with False Heads. We were meant to be a main support for them in their Bristol show in the Louisiana, and like it's just like we can't do it now because it's been cancelled. And like that was going to be a proper good show for us as well. Like,
right, I was going to ask you a bit about the name and whether you see yourself in a tradition of acid punk, because some of your songs, Ghost Town, Anger is an Energy, and then you called White Riot, which is obviously the name of the Clash song.
Yeah, well, I'd say Evan is mainly the director when it comes to like that kind of thing, because he writes the songs, and me and Matt mainly just fill the parts. And I guess like the song comes together more when we all start putting our pieces in, and it changes every now and then. But Evan is the main like director of the songs and stuff. I'd say like we all share the same attitude. I mean, like obviously I wouldn't be doing this, and I'd be in the same band and stuff. But like we all draw like different influences and stuff. I guess you could say like it's condensed together in the songs that we make. So which is why we feel like we're like a good outfit with each other, because we feel like we mix it together well, and if we're not happy with something we say and stuff. But yeah, but when it comes to like the songwriting and stuff, because Evan he's like I say, he's written like multiple genre songs, but like there seems to be an underlying tone of like either just not unhappiness, but just wanting to change things, if you get me.
Yeah. Your live shows are incredible. Since being back, I really love going to see you play. Do you want to tell
I think
us?
that's just me, to be honest, Richard, because I'm the only one who moves on the stage.
Oh!
I was just about to give you a chance to sell yourself, to try and get yourself a gig in Bury St Edmunds. Why should people bother going to see you live?
But no, like, yeah, we just work well together, to be honest. Max just nods his head, and me and Evan just, like, we work well together when we're on stage, really. Like, even though we're at each other's necks half the time, we know that we have to be on point when we're on stage, like, because, like, people have come to see your show. It's entertainment as well as inspiration, isn't it? So, like, and we don't want to turn up to a show still at each other's necks, half-assed and stuff. Like, we got 110% every single time. Even if there's one person in the crowd, is one more person that could like us. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So what are your plans for after the lockdown? Are you going to try and carry on where you left off, like with those plans for
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be emailing people for shows constantly and trying to get back up, because I mean, I don't even know when we're going to be allowed to gig yet. Anyway, we've got a show planned for bloody June 14th in Bristol, but like we haven't talked about it just because we don't even know what's going to be happening at all. I mean, we're still going to be probably in lockdown then anyway, like.
Oh.
Okay.
Like that's not our show though. It was a Bristol band has asked us to support it. But it's a shame, really. But
Oh, you'll have London gigs with me when I go down to London after that.
yeah, I
That's
know.
all right. You've got that to look forward to.
To be honest, as soon as the lockdown is lifted, like Greg's won't see me anymore. I won't be working there anymore. I'll just be working on that bus.
I think we need to get a proper Bury St Edmunds Swansea regular gig swap thing happening.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be incredible.
I think that'd be like transporting back and forth just to get the scene a bit wider. Like,
yeah.
Good luck. And people would definitely be up for seeing bands outside of the town down here as well. If there was Swansea bands supporting them as well, like to help bring in the crowds and stuff.
I think they will. Tundra have gone down really well here. Yeah. I didn't realise there's not many promoters putting on bands from outside Swansea. Mostly they stop at Cardiff. So I think there's a good chance to do that and do a bit of a gig swap, isn't it?
Well, the Swansea scene was just, before this happened, was literally just on its way up, like, and it was improving really well. I mean, like, I was seeing more and more people at gigs every day, and just, like, I don't know, it was just getting better, like, and hopefully after this is all ended, people realise how much they miss it. So,
Indeed. Right, thanks very much. I'm going to talk to Mark now, if that's all right. Mark, I'm going to unmute you, if that's all right. You've got the most questions of anybody come in on the Facebook. I don't know if you've been watching that. So
no.
I'll ask them to you, don't worry.
Okay.
So for people who don't know who Mark is, Mark was in a band in the 80s called the Larks, who apparently wanted to be like James Brown covering the Ramones, or possibly the other way around. They mixed brass with these fantastic poppy, hooky songs. And they also did this song, Maggie, 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 Out, 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 which I feel was a bit different from some of their other stuff. Is it all right? I've got this live video to show people of you doing it. Is it all right if I show that? And then we'll
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I don't know if you remember the gig. It was, I mean, the Larks put this track up, so I assume you approved of it. It was from Fulham in 1985, is that right?
That's what they tell me. I don't remember that gig specifically because it tended to go off every night, everywhere. But I'm very glad that we've managed to find that footage, which was lost for many years.
When I saw this, it reminded me what I'm missing about live gigs. Everybody on the stage, everyone going mad. It's absolutely fantastic. It reminds me of a gig in Bury St Edmunds, actually. It reminds me of Seymour's gig. So here we go, hopefully.
Maggie, Maggie, Maggie! Oh, 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 yeah! Come on! Oh,
Wow, that was fantastic. It's so nice that you've got that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you know the people that recorded that, presumably.
Yeah, it was a we formed a band at Christchurch College in Canterbury, and the film was made by a former fellow student of ours who was at that time at Goldsmiths, and had to put together a little documentary as part of her coursework, and because she knew us from Canterbury, said, "Can I make this little film about you?" And we went, "Yeah, of course," and I'm glad she did. And yeah, that's the story.
Quite a lot of questions coming in for you. I might have to abandon all my questions and ask the ones that are coming in here.
Well, yours are probably better. Yours will be more informative.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Did you see yourself as part of a movement of political bands? Because at the time there was, or just before, just after, there was Red Wedge, obviously just after Rock Against Racism, there was the Redskins who also used the brass. Did you see yourself as part of any sort of political movement? Because the other songs aren't quite the same as that, are they?
No, we didn't see. Oh well, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I didn't see us as any part of anything. We would like to have been involved in some of those things, specifically Rock Against Racism. I guess that was had kind of turned into Red Wedge at that point. But no one asked us. We as a band, we had absolutely no idea about any of that sort of thing. We formed a band at uni for fun, and before we knew it, we were quite good. I don't know how that happened. It was just a chemistry thing. When we started, I couldn't play the guitar, and Tommy had just started playing the saxophone. Our drummer, Dave, the Bishop, he could actually play, and I think that's a big part of it, because at least we were in time right from the start. But there was some weird chemistry thing that used to happen, and with only one or two exceptions out of 300-400 gigs, it used to go off like in the video you just showed. And before we knew it, we were in London. We were selling out the Marquee, playing the Town and Country Club, all those places. And we had no idea about the business side of it, or what we were supposed to do, or how we were supposed to behave or promote ourselves or further our careers, because it was all happening quicker than we could kind of take stock of. One minute we were just mucking around, the next minute we were headlining the Marquee, and we didn't have a record deal, and bands that did have record deals were supporting us. We were thinking, well, we'll get signed soon, because, like we've obviously, just got a bit ahead of ourselves here. But, that it was madness, and it was all over before it began. I mean, looking back now, it was over in the blink of an eye. One minute we were mucking around down in Canterbury at the student union, and the next minute we were at the Hammersmith Odeon. What are you going to do? And we were young, and naive. We knew nothing about how you get involved in Red Wedge and, that kind of thing. And besides that, as Seymour said earlier, it was the same in those days. We hated all the other bands. We were contemptuous of every other band. There wasn't a single band we weren't happy to blow off the stage. We made friends with the Hicksons. They were the only exception. They were very kind and let us support them when we were first getting going in London, just before they split up. But every other band we had nothing but contempt for. We didn't make friends with any other bands, so we weren't part of any scene. And what we were doing with the kind of punk kind of assault on a kind of Stax type thing was so out of time with what Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet and all those those guys were doing, you know, and although we took what we did very seriously, we did not take ourselves seriously, so we weren't very cool. You know, we weren't moping around in Macintosh coats. You know, we were jumping up and down in army surplus shorts. You know, we didn't look or sound like Echo and the Bunnymen. You know, it wasn't the 80s, for heaven's sakes. You know, these young people might not remember it, but the 80s. I mean, you know, we were swimming against the tide in our naivety, but we were doing what we wanted to do. So, I mean, what else are you going to do? There's no way we were going to go for a Duran Duran type sound, because that was of no interest to us. We wanted to succeed, if whatever that succeed is in inverted commas, on our own terms. And at the time when we split up, the whole thing seemed like a dreadful failure. But looking back, having you know, started off as a 10-year-old playing the tennis racket in front of the mirror, to 10, 15 years later headlining the marquee and selling it out, you know, that's success to me now with hindsight. You know, I don't have the helipad outside or the guitar-shaped swimming pool, but you know, so what?
So you're on Spotify now, aren't you? Which is great to see. There's been some clamour to get greatest hits out. Is there any chance of that? Was it on the Cherry Red website? Somebody was saying, well, isn't it time for a Larks retrospective? Is there any chance of that?
Yeah, the Cherry Red. I haven't seen that. We're currently scheduled to be on a Cherry Red box set, Scar Revival 3 CD box set thing with Specials and Madness and all those guys. So that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, yes, we'd like. I mean, believe it or not, there's still an audience for this stuff, and many people have many happy memories of the gigs. And it struck a note with people. I don't, what am I going to do? Yeah, we would like to.
If people want to listen, they can listen on Spotify.
Yeah, it's all on Spotify for free, and they can buy that stuff on Amazon and iTunes if they want. It's all.
So can you tell us anything about the writing of Maggie, Maggie, Maggie? Because I think it's a bit different from some of the other tracks. It doesn't have such an obvious brass to it.
Well, that's the funny thing. Well, yeah. For the best part of our career, we were a 6 or 7 piece, and we did quite elaborate arrangements on some things, and some weird time signatures crept in. And this song, the one we are remembered for, makes Status Quo sound like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So that's kind of weird. But it's better to be remembered for something than for nothing at all. But to answer your question, yeah, I remember it vividly, because it would have been 1982. It would have been May or June, about this time of year. And we were in the student union, and we were just getting ready to rehearse. We used to rehearse, and this is when we were a 4-piece band. We didn't have any, well, Tommy played the saxophone, but we didn't have a brass section. And we just started writing our own songs. I'd written a few songs, and Tommy had written a few songs. And Dave, the drummer, had a song, and Pete, the original bass player, had a song, and we were mixing them in with the cover versions that we did. And we were just getting ready to rehearse in the student union. And the back, there was a little back room, you know, away behind. I think it was a storage room for the disco PA or something, but that's where we used to rehearse. And there'd been a demonstration up in London. I think a coach had gone up to London, and there was this guy called John Hall, and he came into the student union as we were getting ready, and he said, "Oh, it was brilliant, the demonstration." He said people were chanting "Maggie, Maggie, Maggie, out, out, out," and I remember it very well now, because it kind of like, you know, the proverbial light bulb went off above my head, and we went into the rehearsal room, and I put on the guitar, and I started playing that simple 12 bar in the key of A, and singing Maggie, 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 out, out, out. And the others joined in, as they could easily do, because it was just a straight 12 bar. And 30 seconds later, the song had written itself. And we kind of like, well, that was easy, you know. And I think we played it in a concert that we had coming up, that we were probably rehearsing to do a show at the college. And we played it at the end. It was always the song we played at the end. It wasn't a song that kind of went into the middle of the set. And even then, it wasn't a song we took that seriously, because it was such a simple song. And at that point, we just played the Maggie, Maggie, Maggie over and over again. There was none of those accents in the second and fourth verse, and there was none of the bit in the middle. That all came later in an improvised type way. I think the stabs came in just so we knew where we were up to. And then Tommy once went off on singing the Led Zeppelin thing, and we followed him, and that sounded good, so we kept that in. And that's kind of the story of how it arrived. But you know, at the time, that was the one we did right at the very end after we'd done all our stuff, you know. That was the kind of party piece at the end. That kind of answers the question, I think.
There's a question come in here saying, you've been ripped off by Jack City Rockers. Is it true that you might have ripped off some other rock band in your...
Well, the thing is, yes. I mean, as I said, that was improvised. Tommy, I can't remember when or where, but at some point we were doing that song and Tommy went off on that and I was going, well, I know what he's singing. And Dave, you know, the others, you know, we just joined in and played a bit of that because this is not a very tricky one. It's not Stairway to Heaven, you know, it's quite a simple one to pick up as you're going along. And I mean, they ripped it off, Keep a Knocking by Little Richard, who died this morning, sadly. And as Led Zeppelin have a well-known track record for being somewhat light-fingered themselves, we didn't give them any credit when we released it as a B-side. And I think subconsciously or even consciously, we were hoping they would sue us in a kind of, and we would get some kind of David and Goliath type publicity out of it. But of course, that didn't happen. And funny enough, I was thinking the other day when this came up, I'd met Jimmy Page twice in the following years, and not once did I think to mention the song or play it for him. But if I do run into him again, I will definitely play it for him, and I think he'll probably like it actually because it's a bloody good record.
Yeah. So, how did you feel when you heard that somebody else had covered this song? 30.
Well, this isn't the first cover version of Maggie. I've got this ready handy here. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a Japanese psychobilly band called Robin who released this. I should have done my homework. 2003. It's a psychobilly version. It's dreadful, but it's the thought that counts. And I was quite pleased to manage to get a copy of this single. But the thing is, the funny thing about this Maggie, 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 which I don't know if you're aware of, is that the whole Larks and Maggie, Maggie, Maggie has had an afterlife in Japan. They have these clubs, punk clubs, and there's certain songs are called club hits, and it turns out that Maggie, Maggie, Maggie and Billy Graham's Going to Heaven, which was the A-side, are club hits in Japan, and they're known to be club hits. And in Japan, our stuff has been re-released on bootlegs. I should have one to hand. And this wonderful fellow, I've forgotten his name, brought out this marvelous book, which I've also got to hand, DJ All-Time Classics, the Top 200. And we were very proud and amused to find the Larks there at number, what is it? 13, number 13 in the all-time classics list, Maggie, 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 which was a B-side. On the previous pages, the Ramones, who have we got here? The Clash, the Beatles, the Sex Pistols. So, you know, that was good. Number 13, unlucky for some. So
that's incredible, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, and that does warm the cockles of an old has-been's heart, because, you know, it's half a lifetime ago, and the other side of the world. And just the other day, there's this lad on Instagram, Hiroki. He posts something every day of him. He's got a nice Hofner bass, like the old Paul McCartney bass. And every day he posts a video of himself playing along with a song. It's usually the Ramones or the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. And the other day, funnily enough, about, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, he did Maggie, Maggie, Maggie. And the following day, he did Billy Graham's Going to Heaven. And so, you know, I get up in the morning and I'm looking at my Instagram, and there it is. And, you know, that's great. I like that. But as I said, you know, we're remembered for the song that makes Status Quo sounds like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And yet we did some really quite good stuff. Not that this isn't good, but this could never be described as complex or interesting. But and again, I think it transcends that in its sort of full-on kind of excitement. And even just as I'm sitting here now, the fact that someone else didn't take that chant and add it to a 12-bar rock and roll thing surprises me, that it happened to be me or us that did that, and how it wrote itself in 30 seconds, and how it affected people. How you know, people used to really go mad when that came on, when we did that at the end, you know. it was great wherever, you know. We did those kind of May balls at Oxford and Cambridge University, and we were always surprised that they got into it as well, because they're probably a bunch of Tories, you know. But it kind of transcended political, it transcended everything. I mean, people just, you know, they responded to it.
I think
in a visceral kind of rock and roll type. It's just pure rock and roll, basically.
You're being hard on yourself, so there's not much interest in the Larks, because there's too many questions for me to ask, and we need to move on in a minute. Couple of people are saying, is there going to be a rewrite for 2020? Well, I'm hoping that's what ours partly is. If people don't know, we're launching a single today called Boris, 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 out, out, out. I'll put the link in the discussion now. Final question though for Mark. It's been really interesting. I could talk to you all night.
Thank you.
What have you been doing since the Larks? Have you been doing any music, I suppose is what I mean, rather than I've been asking about have you been doing your homework or whatever. Have you been doing any musical stuff since the Larks?
Not really.
No.
As the Larks was coming to an end, and it was all getting a bit fraught, I formed a band with the Larks drummer and the Larks bass player, Dave and Pete Dawes, and we just, because we could deal with each other, it wasn't such a problem. It was a smaller unit, and we wrote like an album's worth of stuff and demoed it cheaply. That's on the Spotify as well. But you know, we were kind of we were quite spoilt by then. The Larks had a nice van, and we used to stay in nice hotels. We used to play in big venues, and with an extensive rider, and you know, all the fuss, and going back and playing in little pubs and stuff. It was just too tiring, and carrying all your own amp. I know that sounds really pompous, but once you've done that once, it's kind of hard to want to do that again, especially when you're coming off the back of a massive disappointment. And after that, the same three, myself, Dave, the Bishop, and Pete Dawes, helped out a friend doing a tribute act. It was a comedy thing. Sex Pistols, Jewish Sex Pistols, Yid Vicious and the Wailing Wall of Sound. We did it at the Edinburgh Festival. None of the three of us are Jewish, but our friend Kosher Paul was Jewish, and we helped him out do that. You know, but the thing about, and I know you wanted to move along here, but you know, someone asked me earlier what I thought of the of this new version of Boris. Believe it or not, we were booked, the Larks, we were booked into the studio in London on Dean Street, the studio that Tony Visconti designed. We were booked in on April 4th and 5th. Eric was going to fly over from Albuquerque. It was all, we were going to go in there, and we were going to do Boris, Boris, Boris. You're not going to believe it.
Oh.
We were going to go in and do that, and we had a new arrangement which differs from the first one. But it was going to, so when this one came out, it's like, well, thanks a lot, you know. We spent 30, 35, 40 years like reforming gradually and slowly, and you know, like dealing with each other and the past, and you know, it finally was gonna happen, and you guys stole our thunder. So.
How about a crossover then? We'll re-record it for free.
So if we do something now, if this thing ever all blows over, we might have to do something different. I don't know. We'll see. We might all be
It'll be the warm-up act, getting everyone interested, and then I think.
Well, we wanted to do one of these things that everybody else is doing, where we all record our bit at home and then make a you know, a song, but none of us knew how to do that, so we're not doing that.
To be fair, Mark, whoever's a Tory Prime Minister is going to be worth singing about. So
yeah, there'll be probably another one along in a minute by the time we get out of here.
Like, if you did record your own Boris version of it, I genuinely think it would come back. Like, especially since all the hype that Maggie had before as well. Like, do you know what I mean? It would almost be like a refresh. Like, do you know what I mean? An official refresh, and people would be like, "Oh my god!" So, I think the general feeling when we were going to do it, because it took quite a long time to organise with Eric, our trumpet player, who lives in Albuquerque, and the rest of us are sort of vaguely sort of around and about. But logistically, the whole putting it all back together took quite a time. And then they locked down London like 2 or 3 days before we were due to go in, and Eric couldn't fly over. And it was already getting a bit, you know, Boris had already been in power for 2-3 months or something. So it was all, you know, by the time we get out of this, it's going to be, you know, a bit late in the day to be, maybe not, I don't know. You tell me.
This is sparkling water, by the way. It's not a gin and tonic. I don't drink anymore. This is sparkling water, my favourite.
It's been really great having you here because when I was explaining to everybody else how to play this song, I didn't think that I'd meet the person who actually was involved with writing it. And then not only that, but they'd also come along and say they didn't not say they totally hosted it, which is
well, thank you for having me. I've never done anything like this. Being
don't go away. We're going to talk to everyone right at the end.
We didn't even have the internet in our day, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Red Rhino Records, and you're my copy of a Pain in the Neck. Right. Tom has been sitting there really patiently, waiting. So don't disappear, Tom. If people are watching, we've just got one more person to talk to, who's Tom, and then we're going to all come back together right at the end. We're launching the Jack City Rockers single, Boris, 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 out, out, out. It is a totally free event, but if you want to donate, the link at the top, and the link is to support Creature Sound through the Save Our Venues crowdfunder campaign. There's a link at the top. It'd be great if people could support venues, because what would life be without music? Tom, I'm going to finish off by asking you some questions. Is that all right?
Yes.
So two bands. I was going to concentrate more on News from Nowhere today because we talked about it the other week. But can you tell us what the link between Bandicoot and News from Nowhere is for people who don't know? Maybe describe News from Nowhere a bit for people who are possibly in Bury St Edmunds or beyond who don't know anything about it.
Sure. So News from Nowhere, I guess, has always been my band since I was about 16 or something. I'm 26 now. But we've basically just been playing around Swansea in small venues for a very long time. And then we lost a drummer a few years ago, and then Billy joined, who's the drummer in Bandicoot. So there was some crossover there, and then I ended up joining Bandicoot on guitar as well. So it's kind of like merged a little bit, but they're quite different bands. I don't know, it's hard to explain exactly what the idea of your band is or like what it's meant to sound like, because you always feel like you've missed out some important element. But yeah, I don't know, I write the songs, and it's kind of like I write a lot about sort of the Swansea landscape. Yeah, stuff. It's kind of like a swirly, psychedelic, indie kind of thing.
Good description. You've been very busy and very poor during lockdown. Can you tell us what you've been up to?
Yeah, I have been extremely poor. Yeah, but I'm used to that, really. Yeah, I've been very busy, just finishing off the News from Nowhere album, which is almost ready, and recording with Bandicoot remotely as well. We're trying to do some, do a couple of covers. We've done a cover of Badfinger, Baby Blue. By Badfinger.
Yeah, Badfinger, I like Badfinger.
Yeah, they're great Swansea band. And I'm also finishing off my solo album.
Tell us a bit about the solo album then. How does that fit News from Nowhere and Bandicoot?
Well, that's just a thing I've always done because I just play all the time and write music, and it's got to go somewhere. Some of it is just kind of more acoustic-y sounding. Yeah, I don't know really. You'll have to just listen to it. But I think the solo album is even more conceptually kind of Swansea focused. Really, it's got a song about Tea Cozy Pete on there, and I think I often write songs in my head just kind of wandering around Swansea, and they just kind of happen. So I think I've just ended up trying to capture the kind of atmosphere of living in Swansea, whatever that means. Yeah.
What importance do you put words in your music? Because I know you often perform at the Live Poets Society event for radical poetry.
Yeah, well, it's very, the words are really important to me, and I studied English. I just love reading and poetry and stuff, so I just always try and put a huge amount of thought into the lyrics, basically, so there's a bit more substance to them. But yeah, I think they go together pretty well, poetry and music, don't they? And
indeed,
it's all a community, I suppose, especially in these times. You've got to keep these creative forces kind of together, you know, I think.
How do you plan to take News from Nowhere forward in a period when hopefully Bandicoot will also be very busy? You're going to be really stretched a bit, are you?
Probably, yeah. It's a tricky one being two bands, I suppose. I think Bandicoot probably has a bit more mass appeal. So, you know, News from Nowhere is not going to be kind of aiming to get really massive or anything. We just finished this album, so it's just a matter of finishing that off. It's just been mixed at the moment. And then I think we just want to find a little label somewhere that will help a few more people. But it's the band that I've always done, and it's just had a very shifting lineup always. And that's just the keep going really. And yeah, it's kind of News from Nowhere is just meant to change all the time. Really, we try and make it different every gig we play. We've always got different ideas coming. There's loads of different genres mixed in. It's just something that kind of happens in that way, you know. It's just kind of a free form sort of thing.
You've used visuals and stuff, haven't you? Some of your gigs, is that right?
Sorry?
Have you used like projections and stuff, or funny lighting? Not funny lighting.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Atmospheric lighting.
Cinema & Co is always a good venue for that with the projector. But we got some music videos that my dad made in the 80s when he was a student. And then I found them on a VHS tape and edited them together, and they fit really well. They were like stop motion animations. So we've projected that a couple of times. Yeah, I'd like to make that more of a thing. It's pretty difficult when you've got no money to buy any equipment.
So how are you? You mentioned I think you haven't got a job at the moment, so it's obviously really tough to survive. How can people who are watching support you? Is there a Bandcamp where you can sell News from Nowhere stuff?
Yeah, all the News from Nowhere stuff is on Bandcamp, and that's pay what you want. So if anyone wants to support us, have a listen to the albums. We did one, 2016 was the last one, and we've got a couple before that as well. But yeah, it's pay what you want, so every little helps, I guess.
And that album, the new album, will be going up where you're going to work out how you're going to release it first before you put it there.
Yeah, it's just in the final stages of mixing, but that'll be hopefully August or September or something. It was recorded by Tom from Buzzard in Cardiff. So yeah, I think need to find some kind of little label with a sympathetic sort of ear for the type of music that we're doing.
And then your solo stuff, where can people hear that?
Well, I don't have anything out at the moment for that. The album is pretty much done, but that's just being mixed as well. And that is probably going to be released by Death Monkey Records. So the one place people can hear a track from that at the moment is this compilation CD that was done for Soundboard magazine in Swansea. I just did like a version of one of my songs on there. So I think that's just come out on Spotify. But yeah, that's all. Hopefully before the end of the year or sometime in the summer as well, the solo album should be done. But this album is something that I've really spent years trying to get together. And it's gone through a lot of different things to get it to what I wanted it to be. So yeah, really looking forward to showing people these songs, to be honest.
I'm excited to hear them. Thank you. We've been going more than an hour now, so I'm going to start to wind up. I've got a couple of questions for everybody. If people have not noticed, we are raising money for Creature Sound. There's a link at the top of the description of the video where you can go to the Venues Trust crowdfunder to donate to Creature Sound. Any extra money will go to be shared across venues across the country. There's also a link that I've put on to this fantastic blue flexi, which has Boris out on it. It's limited to 250 copies. It's going to have the fantastic Russell Taysom artwork on it. As soon as we get them back from the factory, we'll be sending them out. Obviously, people's health is more important than getting a record out, but as soon as you buy it from Bandcamp, you get a free download of it as well. So there we go.
Sorry. Are you keeping me a CD as well, Richard?
I will keep you a copy of this, yes, and I'm going to do CDs for
that would be nice.
Companies only, yes. Promotional ones. Is there anything you want to add anything to help people who are watching? And thank you, people who are watching. Sorry if we didn't get to ask your questions. Maybe particular people who've been asked questions will go back and answer them on Facebook later. Particularly Mark, who's got quite a lot of questions to answer. He's got some homework afterwards. Does anybody know anything about how their music can be supported or how their venue can be supported for people who are watching? Or any final comments? I'll just go through one at a time so we don't have everyone shouting at once. Creature Sound people, any final comments?
yeah, please donate to the Save Our Venues fundraiser. Like I said, it goes to us, and then anything extra goes to everybody else. We have a meeting on Tuesday about the purchase of the building for the Chambers Creative Cooperative. That's the Community Benefit Society. And King Goon are releasing a single very, very soon. So if you can buy that, because the studio gets some royalties on that one, I think. And they're a brilliant band. And yeah, I mean, just, you know, I know this is a record that's been done by a couple of people in the room, but it does have a very powerful message, and I hope you share it around. Thank you.
Yeah, any profits from the sales of this are going to be split between a food bank in Bury St Edmunds and Creature Sound in Swansea. Swansea, do you have anything to add on? You just did a plug about what you wanted people to do.
Not really, just stay safe.
Who can I ask next? Mark, have you anything on the plug? No. James.
Hello. Yeah, I was just gonna say, to be honest, everything's a bit tight right now, so I'd rather people donate either their money to venues or people who actually need it, rather than buying our music at the moment. Just listen to it on Spotify because it's free, but like, give money to the artists that really need it right now, to be honest.
Carwyn?
Yeah, donate to Creature Sound. It's a very good venue. Stream Talkphobia, and just like look at our social media, because as soon as we can, we'll be putting out new music. So go for it.
And Seymour?
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't agree with this single, donate to your local venue, because the worst thing that can happen is that when lockdown finally ends and people are allowed to go out and socialize again, there's nothing left. You know, and if everyone enjoys music, if everyone has ever been to a gig, gave a couple of quid to the Save Our Venues campaign, it's going to be distributed around the whole country. You can help save, you know, every venue in the country if everyone did that. We're not asking you to go and give 100 quid, just a couple. If everyone gave a couple of quid, it would help save the UK's entire music scene. Because you know, everyone starts somewhere. One of my old band, 10 City Nation, we played a pub 12 years ago supporting Ed Sheeran. It was literally 100 people in the back of a pub, and it was Ed Sheeran. I mean, I don't, whether you like his music or not, I don't. He's done well, and he started off by playing grassroots music venues. They all did, you know. Every person who headlines a major festival started off playing grassroots venues. So it's really important to support music right now. I mean, you know, if you hate our single that much, buy a copy just to burn it. You know, it's, but yeah.
Or buy us a pint.
Buy us a pint.
Buy us a pint. The price of a London pint, you can donate into the fundraisers and help keep the venues open for everybody.
That's definitely. So I've got two more questions, which are for everyone to shout out the answers, really. Thanks to people who've joined. Lots of people I know have joined, which is great. Thanks for watching. Two more real quick questions. And then there's going to be the world premiere of a video for our song that people here haven't even seen. I'll tell you about it in a second. So first up, have people enjoyed working as a collaborative thing, and is it something you think about doing again? That's the first.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's been great.
Yeah,
excellent. And I know Seymour's enjoyed it up in Bury as well. And
we might get some more bands on next time as well.
Yeah.
It's just bad. It was a bad time, wasn't it? Because the lockdown came as soon when we were recording it. And final question is, what's best, chips or cream buns?
chips.
Cream buns.
Oh, there's a dissenting voice. Right, I want to thank everybody for watching, if they have been. If you want to donate, as Seymour eloquently put it, there's a link at the top of this stream, where the link to the crowdfunder for Creature Sound, or you can donate to lots of other venues as well. This record, the money goes towards Creature Sound and Gateway Food Bank in Bury St Edmunds. There's a lovely sleeve that will go with it, as you may have seen if you were watching earlier. I think that's it. So when we put this track together, I played it to my brother, and he offered to make a video for it, but it hasn't turned out quite as I was expecting. We're going to show that now, and then we're going to say goodbye to everybody. So if nobody else got anything to say, I want a big thanks to Russell for doing the artwork, and obviously to Phil for doing this video that wasn't quite what I was expecting. I don't know if he's watching. Anybody got anything else to say before I
Just thank you to Mark and Sorry.
Yeah, same. I just want to say thanks for everyone coming on and just chatting about it. It's been nice just still speaking to people with the same interests and still going with it. Nice. So fresh.
Thanks for having me and support your local venue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on the Music Venues Trust website, they've got links to all the different venues they're supporting. Obviously, here in Swansea, we'd love you to support Preacher Sound, but as long as you're supporting venues, that's great. Thanks to Mark.
There's also Crowley's in Swansea as well, because the Music Venues Trust have done it by the venues in most need. So we've ended up on the map, but Crowley's is also on there as well, and they need some fundraising done.
So if you're looking forward to music opening in Swansea again, we've got a bit of a fight on to keep those two. Right. This is my brother's video. He stars in it himself. Here we go. See what you think of this then.
Bars.
Gonna be all right.
Incredible.
Thanks, everybody.
He put some real effort into that.
Yeah, I really like that.